Dr. Dimitrios Exarchos, please come and join us. The last session took longer than it was scheduled. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm very sorry. I will not stay the whole session because I have to leave, but I will be replaced by Dr. Dimitrios Exarchos, also by the University of Ioannina. Dimitris, sit down. I have to say it's a great honor for me to be here for a second time. And this time as a collaborating member for the famous Evlogon, this emblematic project which unifies universities, societies, chambers, the church, the society, the older generation, the younger generation. I don't have to describe it again. And it's also a great honor. I would like to say a big thank to Professor Moropoulou. When she asked me to come here, my program was very, very narrow, but I could not refuse it to her. So I would like to welcome all the distinguished speakers. And the first one is Dr. Hubert Frederick, field archaeologist and curator. So the floor is yours. Will you speak? He's connected, I think. Yeah. Let's. So maybe you will find it later. I'll give you time. I'm going to Professor Tselikas, very famous one for his paleographic studies. Professor, the floor is yours. You have to switch it on.
Okay. Dear friends, dear colleagues, I will be very brief because I was prepared yesterday to have this intervention. But I think that this that I will present is quite important because the technology, the application of technology, of multispectral technology, is now in the top of everything. In this intervention, I present to you a short chronicle that refers to the application of the multispectral method to palimpsest manuscripts and to everything related to the old books, manuscripts and prints. The first attempt in Greece was made in 1998 at the fourth, it is the Institute, Technological Institute in Crete, by Professor Kostas Ballas on a palimpsest parchment manuscript sheet that was in the collection of the Center for History and Paleography of the Cultural Foundation of the National Bank of Greece. Here it is, I must say to you, it is like an anecdote how here in Greece we apply the multispectral method on the palimpsest. We was the first, let's say, contemporary with the study on Archimedes palimpsest. I had a lesson in our seminar in the National Bank of Greece Cultural Foundation in the MET, in the Paleographic Center, speaking about the palimpsest and nature of palimpsest, and was a student there from physics, and after I finished, he told me, "Why don't you use the infrared light?" What is that? I am philologist, I'm not technician. I say, I know this infrared for the potatoes to be burned, to maintain calm. So, in a few minutes, he explained me what it happened with the infrared light, and then I asked how we can apply and use this light. He told me, stay. My professor, Kostas Ballas, in Crete, he was physician. I will explain after. Kostas Ballas applied this technique for to have multispectral, to have a spectrum of the surface of the wait, just to find the word for the detecting the cancer cells. So, in next day we went in Crete with our palimpsest. We had a sheet of palimpsest. He transformed all the system in few minutes, and in few seconds we had the first results. Amazing results. From this moment, we start to study further the nature of the infrared light, and also to use the Photoshop, the first Photoshop methods, to enhance the images that came in the monitor. And then we start to our activity on palimpsest from this year, 1998, until now and on. So, Professor Ballas used the system he invented to detect cancer cells in the uterus through multispectral images, and within a few seconds, by adjusting the wavelength of the spectrum to the surface of the palimpsest, and as I said, we had amazing results. This event was the reason for the construction of the MUSIX system, which evolved into the most effective tool for reading palimpsest manuscripts, and was used by many libraries and museums. After a few years, my happy collaboration with my student in paleography seminar in the Center of History and Paleography, who conducted wonderful and advanced studies in London in digital imaging, began to bear amazing fruit with the application of multispectral methods and old books and museum objects. I'm speaking about Professor now, Vaso Kokla, in the University of Western Attica. I therefore present to you a chronicle of this activity, just to have an idea where these methods were applied within the framework of the activities of the Mediterranean Institute for Research in Paleography, Bibliology, and Textual History, which foreshadows other successful applications. As for my own contribution in to these investigations, I limited myself only to the historical and paleographic study of the objects and under investigation. Of course, as you can see, other worthy collaborators also participated and contributed substantially to the result of these investigations, whom I personally thank you warmly. So, I had a PowerPoint. Is it ready? It is under the name Chelica Kokla.
It's the last one.
Chelica Kokla is...
Ήταν κόκλα το
Έχει και τα δύο ονόματα.
Ναι. Το είδα πριν γι' αυτό.
Εντάξει. Εντάξει. Ωραία, εντάξει. Okay. So, I will present now the titles of our researches from 204 until 208 was the first year, the first period of our collaboration with the Noises project from, as you see, a non-destructive image based on manuscripts analysis system. And we choose some manuscripts from Mediterranean libraries to have images from inks and other material from manuscripts to see how we can study them through the multispectral and other methods of analysis. Soon after 213, I speak only for our activity, because from this date and then, with development of the imaging technique, of course, we had other applications. Okay. Θα δείξω, ναι, σωστά. Είναι σύντομα, ναι. Άλλαξε, εντάξει, ναι, αυτό εντάξει. Εντάξει, ωραία. Λοιπόν, wait. You see the title, the first title, Computational Retrieval Techniques in the Interpretation of Medieval Ink Manuscripts. Was very important, this, and this was a moment to become another research to differentiate the colors of the different inks in manuscripts and also in other paintings. 215, Kokla and others, conservation of glass photographic negatives. We have the dates, and then 216 to 17, definition and standardization of nomenclature of clothing photographic materials. 217, Kokla, wait. Όχι, εδώ μπροστά. Okay, sorry. 217, new technologies at the service of the study of new manuscripts. We apply this technique on the manuscripts we had in our collection in the Paleographical Center in Miet. 218 to 19, development of a methodology for the analysis of optical imprinting of inks and pigments in Byzantine and post-Byzantine codices from 11th to 19th century. Also 220, computational retrieval techniques in the interpretation of medieval ink manuscripts. Was a paper in the Congress of Griechische Byzantinische Handschriften in the frame of the congresses, of the colloquiums of the International Committee of Greek Paleography. After 220 also, but renew Papatheodorou, and so on, non-invasive and biological analysis on pigments used in the 19th century manuscripts. As you see, Balkan Symposium on the 19th on archaeology. 222 also assessing the preservation condition of a 19th century manuscript by physicochemical and biological assays. 223 application of imaging spectroscopy, SEM, EDS, and DNA analysis for monitoring the preservation status of a manuscript of the first decade of 19th century. We have passed also to the research of DNA of parchments, which was made first attempt 10 years ago, also in Crete, in the Museum of Natural History, with very, very important results. Now we continue on this research for historical and also to detect new races of the animals from which come the parchment. And at least at 224, study on a paper support used in a post-Byzantine codex of the 18th century and documents of 19th century. Also, the paper is important to understand. Sorry. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. And at least 225. Documenting and the historical handmade paper using imaging and computational techniques. So I think that you have an idea what is the field of our researches. And first of all, I must again thank all the collaborators who are involved in this research. And I am the last to participate in this research because as historian and paleographer, I have done the very little of everything of that you see here. But I'm very glad to participate in this research and to know more and to go further. Thank you. Sorry for my voice because
I would like to thank both professors for showing us this rich, really very rich and impressive research. Thank you very much. And now we'll go back to the video as I announced it. Is it ready? Can you see it?
I'm Frederick Hebert, the archaeologist in residence at the National Geographic Society. It is a pleasure to address this distinguished conference of cultural heritage stakeholders from around the world. One of the most important recent cultural heritage preservation projects was the conservation and restoration of the Holy Edicule in Jerusalem, carried out under the direction of Professor Antonio Morhulu from the National Technical University of Athens. The Holy Edicule is a structure at the epicenter of Western civilization in the heart of Jerusalem. Here, a shrine was built by Constantine in the 4th century, just above the traditional location where Christ was buried. The structure was partly destroyed by invaders in the 7th century AD, destroyed again in AD 1009, and the structure was rebuilt as a church in the mid-11th century. The very center, the Edicule, was later altered by the Crusaders and restored in the 16th and finally early 19th centuries. Its current form encloses all of these earlier construction phases. By the beginning of this century, the building was in dire need of conservation. In late 2015, National Geographic learned about the church's interest in the conservation of the Holy Edicule and the desire of the church to use the best, highest tech architectural conservation possible through the National Technical University of Athens. Clearly, such an important project needed to be told to the widest possible audience. This led to the strategic alliance between National Geographic and the National Technical University of Athens in agreement with the custodians of the Holy Sepulchre. With this cooperation, we could communicate the monument and the project to the whole world. National Geographic could do this with our global audience of more than 700 million viewers and readers. I would like to mention how grateful we are to Father Alex Karloutsos of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America, who contributed to bringing together the Church, the World Monuments Fund, the National Technical University of Athens, and the National Geographic Society to make this important conservation project happen. Following a year of planning after Easter 2016, the restoration and conservation of the Holy Edifice began with a daunting schedule of being ready to open for Easter in 2017. One of the biggest challenges was the requirement to keep the shrine open to the public for almost the entire duration of the project. The exception to this last rule took place in October 2016 when the marble slab covering the heart of the edifice was opened. This was not done out of idle curiosity, but to allow the conservation team the opportunity to seal the holy rock for long-term conservation. On October 26th, after the last visitors and pilgrims left the church in the evening, the doors were locked and the conservation team slowly opened the slab for the first time in several centuries. Peering down, they found a second slab engraved with a cross lying on the bedrock, the holy rock of Jerusalem. The silence in anticipation of hearing what they felt in this very sacred spot was unique. It was a moment of great scientific understanding, historic conservation, and a humbling, overwhelming feeling of humanity. All this in full view of the entire world through media. In addition to global media coverage, this project was featured in a National Geographic documentary, a cover story in our iconic magazine, and a major exhibition project.
What happened? Τι συνέβη?
I'm Fred Hebert, the archaeologist and resident welcoming feeling of humanity. All this in full view of the entire world through media. In addition to global media coverage, this project was featured in a National Geographic documentary, a cover story in our iconic magazine, and a major exhibition project that featured a 3D fly-through of the shrine for visitors who had a feeling of being transported to Jerusalem from our headquarters museum in Washington, D.C. By early 2017, conservation work was completed, and Professor Maura Blue stated that the building can now stand for another 1,000 years. In addressing the conservation of a 1,600-year-old structure, factors such as the risks of climate change, the risks of earthquakes, and the issues of other natural and anthropogenic causes were taken into consideration. As we maintained a focus on the integrity of historical architectural restoration, of compatibility of materials, architectural stabilization, and cleaning, these naturally led to observations about our history, architectural history, absolute dating, and archaeology. We will soon hear from scholars, scientists, and experts in 14 separate panel discussions, delving deeply into all of these topics, with what we hope will lead to a roadmap for future best practices in the preservation of cultural heritage.
Dear Tonya, I have a question. I saw to the right of Mr. Frederick, there is the Oscar statuette. Did you receive also an Oscar and we didn't know it? So let's go now to our next speaker. And please, ladies and gentlemen, respect the 5 minutes. The next is Dr. Will he come? I don't remember what you said. Dr. Baruch Yuval. He will be connected? No. So let's go to Mrs. Tsakoumaki. Είναι αρχαιολόγος στο Υπουργείο Πολιτισμού. The floor is yours.
In English as well. It's okay.
Yeah,
Let's not make
an archaeologist in the
discrimination.
Ministry of Culture of Greece, my beloved, and the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much. It is an honor and pleasure always to be in the TMM-CH conference. Within the frame of the historical and archaeological documentation endorsing the values of monuments, and with the aspect of rehabilitation with respect. And this is a norm that we have to keep as a title. Us from the F4A de Fokid, centered by the famous Delphi, would like to share some of our projects with you, starting, of course, from the prominent, now finished project, mastered, I would say, by the science, the interdisciplinary team of the N2A, and by Professor Molopoulou. It was a joy and an education to work with here. You know, archaeologists, we are a bit introverted until we become very extroverted. So,
Time to change.
no, I come from England, so I'm extroverted, maybe more than I should. So let's see a few things about the Varnakova Monastery Catholicon, which was completed in 1174 AD, a basilica with a dome, particularly noted for its 11th century Comnenian facade, which was supposed to be destroyed by Kutaisi. Apparently, the Ottomans did not make a successful destruction this time, so we were able to find the facade, the original facade of the monument. Yes, it happened. Kutaisi failed once, although the sources, the literary sources, said he was successful. So we ended up with this jewel of architecture, with a plinthoperikleston system. The Byzantine studies or lovers would know what I'm talking about, and some parts also of the 13th century Furnica domes were found, along with the restorations of the 19th century from the Capodistrian age. Following the 1995 earthquake, the Catholicon demonstrated severe stability problems, and that's where the project of the restoration undertaken by the N2A, the F4A of Fokis, and the central services of the Ministry of Culture started in order to rehabilitate the Catholicon and significantly improve its ability to withstand seismic phenomena while preserving and highlighting the historical, cultural, and aesthetic values of the monument. You can see some parts of the archaeological progress. The project included the documentation of the literary sources, the state archives, about 90 tombs that we found belonging to the 19th century, the original phases and the 13th century phases of the iconography, and of course the major restoration of the temple, the gold temple, which was taken down, and it took about 1 year to restore with the significant efforts of the conservators. Now, let's go to the central point, which is the norms, the principles, and aims of restoration. The project started with documentation, dating and assessment of the historical and archaeological evidence in order to enhance the historical and cultural aesthetic values of by the F4A, and conservation by the Central Service of the Ministry of Culture. The use of innovative scientific methods, of course, by the N2A, the interdisciplinary approach and holistic view of the monument, the enhancement, consolidation, and restoration of the monument, which is actually the project, in order to achieve longevity and sustainability in time, the protection via digital documentation and physical restoration, that for me is a very, very serious pylon that I tend to follow in all projects now, via LiDAR, drone, and around the surrounding area. Sustainability of the interventions, that means non-destructive methods applied, and a reversible intervention wherever you can do that. Interactive relations with the surrounding community, because why do we do that? Apart from the fact that we need to restore the monument, apart from the fact that we need to disseminate the culture, whereas it is Greek, European, or whatever, we need to share it with the community and make it theirs. And of course, the enhancement of national and European identity, which is something that we will all need in the next years. I'm just quickly showing you some of our other projects. That's the Monastery of Metamorphosis of Sotira in Galaxidi, which is actually taken on about 2 years to complete. We had some delays. A very important church of the 13th century as well, in the ruins of which the Chronicle of Galaxidi was found for, I think that you know the document, don't you? Yes. Written by a monk describing the history of Galaxidi from the 10th to the 17th century. And the Timios Prodromos de Sphina, one of the most celebrated small temples of Fokis, where some of the most important heroes of 1821 stood and took help from the monks, and where Bishop Isaias the famous bishop of Episcopos Salonon was seated in order to be protected. So this is about, for me, I would not like to tire you with more. What I would like to say is that this project, the project of Varnakova, was used, at least in my mind, as a prototype with the norms and terms that I showed you. And wherever I can apply some of these knowledge, I do it, because the point is the transfer of knowledge from one project to another. And because it is a great time for us at Delphi, having also begun about 3 big projects in the central archaeological site, the restoration of the gymnasium, the restoration of the West City, and the restoration of the late antiquity Therme, along with 4 monasteries. The only way to manage that, being 3 of us, is to have a central guidebook and tick the box and see what you are missing, and try and wait for the next time to make it better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear colleague, and I would like to congratulate you not only for the presentation, but also for the work you made there. It's really magnificent. Thank you very much. And
The professor's there.
I have also a video of Mrs. Papacosta, and now Dr. Dimitrios Exarchos is going to replace me. Thank you very much. Sit it on.
Okay, thank you very much.
To our archaeological project at Salalat Gardens of Alexandria. It is Salalat Gardens, the Park of Alexandria, designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, the same architect that designed the Central Park of New York. The project started in 2009 by opening a small trench of about 15 square meters. Now the area covers at least 5,000 meters. In 2009, we started in a small trench, and the last day of the excavation, we were succeeded and blessed to find a unique piece of art, a Hellenistic statue of Alexander the Great. This statue has the characteristics of the portraiture of Alexander when he was alive or some years after his death, so people remembered his face. It's not the face of the deified Alexander of the Roman times, but it is closer to the face we see in the painting trees of the tomb of Vergina, of Philip, also in the mosaic of Pella and the sarcophagus of Sidon. A recent conference arrived to this conclusion as their biggest possibility. The reason for choosing this area was its location in the topography of the Hellenistic Alexandria. The area belonged to the royal quarter of the Ptolemaic city, and it's the first time that an excavation has been done in this area. The main problem of our excavation was the huge quantities of modern debris, and the most important, the water table that was appeared in the depth of 7.5 meters. Anyway, we insisted to go deeper than the water horizon, and that's why we succeeded to arrive to the Hellenistic legend. So, in 2010, we found at a depth of 10 meters, these white limestone blocks that belong to the foundation base of a monumental public building. We have one line of stones to the south, a second parallel one to the south also, and between these blocks, there was this material. This material consisted by small pieces of limestone, and it was all over the place except the middle space. Now we have the south wall of the building, the east, and the west. The problem was that it was not possible to find the north wall, but we were also lucky because under this hydraulic construction that could be possibly the floor of the ground floor, we found the entrance of a tunnel. This tunnel was a late Hellenistic tunnel made by nice quality stones also, and was starting from the south, going to the north and turning to the west. We followed this tunnel and we were lucky to find the continuation of the west wall of the building and the most important, the corner and the beginning of the north wall. So now we have all the plan and the dimensions of this construction. It's supposed to be around 41 meters length and 35 meters width. This construction is very strong, very heavy, according to the science we have, the elements we have. So I believe that it is the foundation base of a very tall and strong building. Otherwise, there is no reason to have such a strong foundation for a normal construction. Not even a temple does need such a huge foundation base. Besides that, we found to the south of the wall another fortification wall, another line of blocks, Hellenistic once again, is exactly parallel to the south wall that goes from east to west. We found the corner and then it turns to the north. That means that this fortification wall is going around the building. And the meaning, I believe, is that this building was very important in order to have a fortification wall around. Furthermore, in 2017, we were lucky to find a Roman street, a Roman road. The Romans used to work with these stones in order to make the Roman roads of the city. We know exactly which road is that, according to a map of an astronomer of 19th century, Mahmoud Bey el-Falaki, who drew the plan of the Roman Alexandria, the street grid of Roman Alexandria. We know that Dinocrates, the architect of Alexandria, or maybe Alexander himself, when he planned the main landmarks of the city, he made two main streets in Alexandria. One horizontal, the Canopic Street, that still exists as a modern one, and the vertical one, which was started from the palaces in the sea, intersecting the horizontal, the Canopic, and arriving to the port of the lake. This street has never been found till now. So when we found the Roman L2 road, we followed it, hoping to find the intersection with the main vertical royal road. But we realized that the Islamic fortification of 9th century AD had destroyed the intersection. In any case, we didn't stop. We followed the direction of the road and we arrived and found a big part of the Royal Road of Alexandria, the R1. So now we can confirm the direction and the point of intersection with the main horizontal Canopic Street. And why this is important? Because we know from a Greek author of 3rd century AD that the intersection of the city, the intersection of the two roads, was the center of the city, was the scholars of the building. So, besides that, a very important discovery, a recent one, was a layer under the Roman road. when we made excavation to find the layers below, we found a layer full of fish bones, sea fish bones, coral reefs, and seashells. We knew that according to Ammianus Marcellinus, a Roman author, in 365 AD, a strong tsunami caused by an earthquake from Crete destroyed Alexandria. Till now, there was no evidence about this destruction. And modern geologists start to say that maybe it was a false information and this destruction never happened. So we managed to date this layer by carbon-14, and the date is matching exactly with the date of the tsunami. It's between 325 till 390. That means 365 is included. Besides that, a few months ago, we found even the bones of a sea turtle, which is an amazing discovery. So the fact is that this tsunami happened, destroyed Alexandria, but also maybe this is the reason of the destruction of our tall and big building we have here. This is a very summarized description of the area. Of course, we have a lot of objects, a lot of artifacts, thousands of stamped amphora handles, coins, small figurines, lamps, oil lamps, very important objects to realize the importance of this area. For sure, the excavation is in progress, and we hope that finally we will understand which building we have discovered. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a very interesting presentation of the research done at the Alexandria, although it was a bit bigger than it should be, but it doesn't matter. Our next speaker is Kalau Diego, Associate Professor from the University of Ca' Foscari of Venice. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation, Professor Antonio Maropoulou. Really made me a great gift to be here today. I was a little bit tempted to bring some part of my works in Venice, so I will bring here a lot of water, so I decided not to bring that, but speak with you about a project that we are doing with next gen money, so European money in Italy, with also my colleague Elisabetta Zentri, that she will speak in the next in two panel, about the idea of reframing law, codes, and practices that we had around archaeological heritage, documenting archaeological heritage, and doing it well. I underline on the title of the panel some keywords: documentation, value, rehabilitation, and respect. Respect for what or for whom? That will be maybe the question that I try to address here. So, from Venice, I come from Venice to Faro, but Venice is also the Venice Charter that every one of you knows very well. And as I knew very well, but as I saw today, the principle of Venice Charter have been so well, very much implemented at a higher level that the extensorships, the Venice Charter, they didn't even thought about 50 years ago. But we have another convention, Faro Convention. That convention that has been signed 20 years ago, and it is saying something quite pivotal about the uses of cultural heritage. That is transferring the center of our target from objects to people. We, as the Italian government and cultural heritage practitioners, we signed the convention a few years ago, but the convention is law of our country since 4 years. So if we have to follow the convention, and the convention, you know, that is a binding document from the Council of Europe, we have also to adopt a little bit the, not only the guidelines, but the high aims, high stakes that the convention is positing. Cultural heritage, according to the convention, is defined by the community, and everything that you do around cultural heritage should benefit the community itself, and also be a democratic and peaceful tool in our society. Democracy and the different tales and narrative that we can have around heritage has been stated at the end of the previous section by Professor Moropolo, and is exactly that point that the convention is saying. So we have a little bit of problem if we adopt Faro Convention. I'm quoting here Laura Jane Smith and her work on... sorry? Oh, yeah. I changed your mind. Thank you, so sorry. I'm quoting here Laura Jane Smith, one of the most important exponents of critical heritage studies scholarships. She's saying in her book, The Uses of Heritage, that really there is not such a thing of heritage. Heritage doesn't exist because it's stuff, but it exists because there are meanings that we add on it. Heritage is made by the way that we think, we discourse about it. Heritage exists only in a transformative nature. The way that the restoration that we have seen today, or other major work that we do on our today on our cultural heritage, express a different approach on heritage, both from the people that made them, but of the people that took care of them or didn't take care of them before us. But again, there is also another point that need to be raised. Values. We tend to assume that heritage is a good, that preservation, conservation is a good thing. That's it, full stop. We take it as an axiomatic and dogmatic element. And heritage is often placed beyond questioning and critical examination. But it has been clearly discussed that heritage and doing restoration around heritage create a lot of social, political, economical, and also ecological, not only issues, but also consequences. Heritage work on us, has an agency, define us. We think that we are defining heritage, and that is partly true, but also when we spend a lot of money and when we decide that the best thing to do, and apparently it is, because the most is visiting an archaeological site, and apparently it is because the most visited sites all around the world are all archaeological sites, but here in Greece and in Italy. The memory of those places are working on us. So what does conservation do and why people do it? That is a big question that we have to assess. What probably we are not doing at the higher level as heritage practitioners, I'm an archaeologist myself, is critically thinking on what we do, on theoretical thinking on what we do. And we tend to take for granted and not consider the great implication that the adoption of this new deal around cultural heritage posited by Faro Convention is giving to us. I quoted here the central element of Faro Convention. So objects and places are not in themselves what is important to preserve, but what is important to preserve are the meanings and the uses, the practices that the people are attached to them. We saw some very magnificent religious heritage site today, and we know the project of Professor Moropolo from a long time, and that is exactly one one example of that. That site is in use in all the way possible that we can imagine, from religious to cultural to tourist one. I quoted also the official text for the inscription of my city as UNESCO site, Venice. And when we go to see what we have decided to label Venice, is not the monument, is not the San Mark Basilica, the square, the Rialto Bridge, whatever, but is the transforming, the dynamic process which illustrates the interaction between people, nature, and the creation on a very anthropogenic, very specific anthropogenic site. In this project that we are doing, that is called Next Gen Heritage, we are trying to understand how we can bring together this transformative process on that define cultural heritage and the role of citizen science and the role of community. This is a little bit tricky because if from one side we have our European major contribution on the democratic discourse around cultural heritage, that is that we have defined heritage as a common goods, like water, like air, like freedom. And so it is a right to culture. So protecting it is like to protect democracy, and that is quite a big thing, and we hope that we will take it for long years again. But common goods are resources that are owned by whom? And moreover, who are the stakeholders that can decide how to do, what to do with them? Critical heritage studies, they have taught to us that there is a lot of politics and a lot of instrumental use that can be done around critical heritage. And we can play quite a lot with common goods. And we can get elected if we play well or not elected. We probably are not ready, at least in Italy, and I'm asking you what is going on in Greece, with our code, with our law about cultural heritage and our practices. We are not ready to do this transition from the ontology of ownership of cultural heritage to an ontology of use. So states, a Ministry of Culture and its institution owns cultural heritage in name of the citizens, but there is still a big gap on incorporating the voices, the multivocality of the citizens in doing the choices that we want to have for a sustainable future. Respect, I'm coming to the last highlighted word. Respect for whom? A choice, a direction that we are going through, it is rewriting the implementation part of this Faro law in Italy, is to have citizen science tools and participation at the center of the documentation process. Archaeological documentation process, historical documentation process, and also renovation, conservation, rehabilitation, conservation processes. So having the community involved, but having the community create significant complexities in terms of time and cost. It needs time to meet people, to listen people, and to synthesize what people are saying. And then also there is a huge problem that we do not have tools for recognized roles, skills, objectives, and rules. There are some actions that need to be decided by the very expert, but the timing of this action, or maybe the hierarchy of this action, or the cost, can be also discussed with a larger community, as Faro and the Council of Europe is asking since 20 years. We are here in front of two kinds of problems. Training. We are not very trained to be so participatory, but also those solutions can create conflicts. For concluding, we have some issues. Restoration may be scientifically excellent, but at the end, I'm not speaking for the monument that we saw today, but in general. But sometimes, and it happens quite a lot, at the end there is a sort of a lack of impact on the context of global multicultural society. We are speaking too much about identity. Identity leaves people out of identity, and there is a space to be filled by anthropological and social studies. Documentation and process often remain fragmented in two sides. From one side, they are split between technical nature, and on the other side, the political and social. And it is difficult to bring them together. And then we can map a sort of emotional connection or sometimes disconnection from the rehabilitated monument with the civil society. If this happens, our rehabilitation is not done with respect, but is done unsuccessful. What we do need in practice, it is a long process, but what we do need is probably to be prepared to allocate dedicated resources for this consultative committee, provide time and space, and bring those elements at the center of the design of our process. And also, we have to reassess our role in training cultural heritage practitioners, whatever they are, archaeologists or whatever they are, restorers. And also, at the end, embrace the transformative nature of monuments in the very design of the rehabilitation processes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A very interesting talking, and also some questions arise from this topic. If we could imagine, if from the day one we have started to negotiate, and not only that, if we have started to restore, imagine the Egyptians to have the Egyptian monuments all the time restored from the day that Egypt was active, I mean, as an ancient society. How many other different societies that built on top of that would not have built anything on these areas? Okay.
But at the end, we are doing the job, so exactly. we take the choice. we are sorry for us, not for them.
Thank you very much. The time is very tight. Our next speaker is Professor Borghia Emanuela. I think she is already connected via Zoom.
Yes, can you hear me?
From University of Sapienza, yes, loud and clear.
Yes, great. And I would like to share a short presentation. Would it be possible?
Yes.
I will try to do my best. I am not able to full screen. Let's do like that. So. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, sure.
Okay, great. So first of all, I'm deeply grateful to Professor Antonia Mouropoulou for inviting me to this very important conference and for bringing all of us together to discuss about many important topics for the future of cultural heritage and world challenges to protect and enhance our past. I am very sorry not to be with you today. Unfortunately, some academic engagements prevented me to come to the wonderful city of Athens. I'm very sad for that. I hope for the next time to be with you. So today, as you can see from the title of my presentation, I would like to focus our attention on a specific category of buildings as a general point of view, Greek and Roman theaters, I will just make some examples to think about their preservation, their enhancement, and the way, the best practices to restore and preserve these kind of buildings. I think that the buildings for spectacle can provide an important context for a common reflection on how to approach the study, documentation, preservation, and restoration of ancient monuments. Mainly because, as all of us know, theaters in particular are often, let me tell, attacked by the necessity of big restorations to be reused for modern purposes. And this is a perfect way to reuse these buildings, but in some cases, I believe that we have to be cautious in doing very impressive restorations. So my idea is to discuss with you if and at which level ancient monuments in general and ancient building for spectacles in particular must go through conservation or restoration processes that can be more or less invasive. So I'm just showing you some of the best preserved ancient theaters in the world, just to figure out how these buildings are spectacular and how they are spread all over the Mediterranean and throughout the Roman Empire. That's why in many archaeological sites, one of the first monuments to be excavated is exactly the theater. And after the uncovering of the building, the problems linked with its physical preservation, restoration, and enhancement arise. In many cases, the theater's restoration is considered as a way of facilitating the fruition of the monument.
Excuse me.
Yes?
I think that we cannot see the change of your presentation. Yeah, I think we see only the first one.
Oh my God. So I will try to share it again.
Yes, please.
Maybe I can do like this. I try. So
That's better, yeah.
Are the slides moving now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So sorry for that. I was thinking about my belief that a special attention in all the preservation processes of ancient buildings must be the accessibility for all the people and mainly for disabled people. And this is something which is going on in Italy, but not so fast as we would expect. And I would like also to share this problem with all of you. And another topic is the reuse of spectacle buildings for present-day performances, which is considered a very good way of facilitating their fruition. But I believe that nowadays various ideas for construction and installation of removable structures which are available can give us the idea of how to regulate the use of each site with respect. And the word respect is a word that my colleague who spoke before me underlined very well. And I think this is a very important word on which this panel is focused. I think that it is anyhow fundamental to balance between the different situations and necessities according to the specific context we are dealing with and the specific sites. What about the problems of restoration of ancient theaters? I want to mention this pioneering volume, which was published in 2012 and that was focused on the restoration and management of ancient theaters in Turkey. I think that some such volume was very important to focus on the different points of view of the different scholars. And so I will just follow with my presentation with some examples, some specific examples all around the Mediterranean that can offer the opportunity to discuss together about the best practices for restoration, valorization, and enhancing the ancient buildings. The first case is the very famous theater in Spain, the theater at Saguntum, which underwent a massive and invasive restoration in the 1990s of last century. It was inaugurated in 1993. And from this moment on, a large debate arose, and the specter of demolition was repeatedly invoked. Why? Because this restoration not only, let's say, altered the ancient buildings, of which almost nothing can be seen anymore, but also the surrounding landscape. And landscape archaeology is fundamental in any process of valorization. So the restoration reproposed the original volumes, not only of the cavea, but also of the stage building, which was completely reconstructed without any traces in the antique building. And the project was promoted by two architects, Grassi and Portaselli Roig, and their idea was to create, I will spell it in Italian, but you have the English translation in the slide, un teatro alla maniera dei Romani, so a theater in the Roman manner, completely rebuilt above the ancient ruins. And in this slide, you can see the situation previous and after the restoration. This is one of the examples which most strikes me and also strikes my students when I'm showing it to them. Another example, moving to Turkey, is the Roman theater at Eleusa Sebastel, which I had the chance of excavating in person. And here you can see to the left the slide showing the situation before excavation and after the excavation. And the theater was excavated in the years 1995, 1999. And as you can see, all the seatings were completely plundered and the pieces were reused in the early Byzantine period to build the churches that are lying in the plain underneath the theater. And so thanks to the very few pieces uncovered of the sittings.
One more minute, please. Sorry for that, but I would kindly ask you to finish in the next 1-2 minutes, please.
I will finish, no worry. Just some examples, some more examples. So what I wanted to show you here, that we proposed, a team of archaeologists, restorers, architects, a partial reconstruction of only one cuneus that you can see in the slide, not only aimed at giving the visitors the idea of how the building might have appeared, but also to consolidate the Western parados, whose wall was in poor preservation conditions. And this didn't prevent the theater from being used for present-day performances. This is another example, again from Turkey, the Greek theater, the Hellenistic theater at Laodicea, which was restored to former glory and reused also for performances, but it was restored according to the original status. And a very peculiar case is the one of Cartago Nova, which is again in Spain. And I think that this project is important because it was made with respect of the ancient remains and respectful integration of the ancient remains within the present-day urban layout, returning a monument to society with integration, consolidation, partial anastylosis, reversibility, which is fundamental, and minimization of material impact. The question I would like to share with you is, what about distinguishing the ancient structures from modern integrations? This is a problem that we have to focus in many cases. In the case of the theater at Terracina in Italy, the problem is not present because all the ancient pieces were used for the restoration without any integration. So any visitor can be sure that the theater he is visiting or where he's sitting is the ancient one. I'm coming to the conclusion with two more examples where a covering, which is not beautiful but necessary, is present. This is the Greek theater at Herakleia Minoa, which was built with a very poor material that could be damaged by atmospheric events, rain, wind, and so on. So the roofing was necessary to prevent the theater from being destroyed. But recent technologies could propose this new project, which was approved in 2024, not yet realized, by architect Cellini from Padova, which is very interesting because it can be considered as a revolutionary idea. And it's very interesting because it is conceived as a sort of green cavea just above the theater, which will be visitable again underneath the roof, but also some seatings for spectators looking at any kind of new representations. Modern representation can be seated there. This was the example from Greece, the little theater at Epidauso. I will move fastly towards conclusions as you're asking me to be shorter. What I wanted to share with you are some questions. Does an ancient monument need to be rehabilitated up to the level, for instance, of the Theatre of Saguntum? And are we, in that way, respecting the past, promoting the present, and leaving a proper message for future generations? I think that this is a very delicate issue that scholars with varied competencies have to deal with on a case-by-case basis and in strict cooperation, as this conference is telling us. I must underline that any excessive restoration and integration of an ancient monument risks to cancel the tangible traces of antiquity. And so maybe we have to be cautious in this case. Nowadays, as new technologies such as 3D reconstructions and virtual reality can help visitors to understand how an ancient monument might have appeared without making a real reconstruction, why do we have to adopt invasive solutions when they are necessary? I believe that there is one case when a real and concrete reconstruction is needed, is mandatory. So when the building static situation or preservation is at risk. On the contrary, and I conclude, if we want to reuse an ancient spectacle building for present-day performances, removable structures can be used without touching nor transforming it in an irreparable manner, and leaving to the next generations the possibility of seeing the ancient monuments in their original features. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I will stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
Did it work? Did it work some way?
Okay. Thank you very much. Our last but not least speaker is Dr. Archaeologist Korka Elena from the Ministry of Culture and Sports of the Hellenic Republic, General Director of Antiquities and Cultural Heritage, and also President of Hellenic Blue Shield. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I am always so glad to be invited to Tonia Moropoulou's conferences because it is a great honor, because our friendship and our professional identities have merged from time to time. And I always know that I will leave with very much acquired knowledge by specialists in their fields, and that there will be such an array of themes that will be addressed. And this is really a miracle. It's very rare that you can involve so many people of such high standards and make it work. It is really a school of education for scholars, very advanced scholars. So I will try to sum up, even though that's very difficult, to sum up what our speakers have said, sort of like pinpointing some basic messages, which I think they have included in their presentations, and that I don't know if we have time, which is running very short, we could discuss even during breaks. Professor Tselikas is very well known in paleography, and here he has given us examples of various methods that can be used, especially when we deal with palimpsests. So infrared use or Photoshop methodology are part of the different methods that can be put to use. And it is very important when we can have special programs and projects for this specific item. And so there is the Noises program. There you can deal with pigments of ink and monitoring conservation by image spectroscopy, which is CEMEDS, and DNA even analysis. Multispectral modeling. All these methods are multidisciplinary. Technology evolves every day. And so even new readings, symbols that have been somewhere and we couldn't see them before are now legible, let's say. And this is really one of those miraculous things that scientists have managed to do. Now, we will pass on to Professor Hebert. He comes from the National Geographic Society, and I was very happy to see that there was such a close collaboration between National Geographic and NTUA with Mrs. Tonia Moropoulou concerning the Holy Edicle, which is such a unique monument because it has so many values engulfed into it. And we actually, as the Directorate General of the Ministry of Culture, assisted with some conservators that we managed to send over. And I think that that was very interesting because these people have great knowledge of different kinds of monuments. And of course, the outcome was so spectacular. Of course, I visited the exhibition in Athens, which was mounted with the help of Professor Georgopoulos, and he's another friend, an expert who is amazing. And actually, he is our collaborator in our excavation, a systematic excavation of ancient Tenea. So it has been a privilege to work with people that are so wonderful and such good experts at the same time. Definitely, the methodology used for this one and only monument is sort of like a guidebook on what you can do in order for people to truly perceive not only the image, but the values of important monuments in the history of mankind. Now we go to Mrs. Tsakoumaki, who is also a colleague and a very good friend. So she came here as she is a member of the Ephorate of Phokis, and more specifically dedicated to the museum, of course, of Delphi, but also monitoring the different monuments which are in the broader environment. And in this case, Professor Moropoulou collaborated with the Ephorate and specifically with Marilena Tsakoumaki regarding various churches and monasteries. And that is a different kind of heritage that perhaps has some different disciplines in a way, even though conservation is one big entity, but still. We usually think of conservation in ancient monuments. However, in Greece, with so many churches and monasteries, it is a vital need. And that way, monuments that otherwise would have deteriorated are again revealed and rejuvenated, I would say. And of course, that puts them also to sustainability and a holistic use which they can have for the various communities which are encouraged to become involved in these projects and their meaning. So these projects, which are joint projects, could be like guidebooks with a list. And I think that would be really very useful and practical, because many times we tend not to be very practical, and we think in complex terms. However, that can be done, and it's time-worthy and very important. So now we go to Mrs. Papacosta, who is also a very good friend, because we were classmates in the university. And she came to me in the ministry to ask for help, but this was a very complicated issue, because the Salpa Gardens are, let's say, in a whole political issue when you have a Jewish cemetery in a very Arabic environment in the center of Alexandria, and where Hellenistic and Roman finds have been uncovered, and this has brought us new knowledge about Hellenistic Alexandria, which is important mostly to us. And it is amazing that when we think of the earthquake that is very well known and which definitely hits various regions in Greece itself, which was between 320 and 390. And we have seen this in various sites where we have carried out systematic excavations. And because the issue of the tsunamis is very timely, and whether they can be destructive is very important. The statue of Alexander has also been under great scrutiny, and I think it is an excavation that will give more and more important information. Now, considering the professor Calaon Diego from the Venice University. Of course, as the University of Venice definitely deals with the World Heritage Site of Venice, and I have been there with books that I had to circulate during the 30 years, let's say, celebration of the World Heritage Convention, and the water reached almost our waistlines. And I was really scared because the books were placed on a pedestal and they were not destroyed, but I couldn't manage to take a boat for any place. And so I had to carry them myself. And that was a practical thing that really gave us difficulty. And so I have lived through such times in Venice. And there were very many ambassadors of goodwill there. And it was amazing that they put the ambassadors in these barrels with wheels, which they have for cleaning the city. And they were sort of pushed inside the waters to be protected. So, of course, the methods that are used in such a very unique case as is Venice are different. And the Faro Convention, which is a convention that has been challenged a lot, it was applied, and that is a very good example that it is worthwhile. And so the values of the Venice Charter, which are for always very high and are used today, and concerning the rehabilitation of cities, I would think that a new Venice Charter should be used as we're talking about rehabilitations of entire cities. And that would be a very interesting task. So here we have heard the community peace and application methods, respect and use concerning the ecosystem and everyday life, participatory processes, and so they fall even under the human rights, fundamental human rights. And all this that we have spoken about today do fall under the human rights. And that's why we should more specifically think about the cultural rights of people, which definitely are evident. They're there without any doubt, and they are part of the human rights values. And so the professor spoke about commons-based approach and ontology of use. These are very important meanings and messages for the future, because as head of the Hellenic Committee of the Blue Shield, and there are very many events that are happening at this time, these months, the following months, and they're all about risks and methodology and how we should all get together and speak about the risks and the purpose of rehabilitation and up to where that can reach.
Please,
So
Dr. Dorka.
Yes, I'm finishing.
Thank you.
As we now come across the last speaker, Mrs. Emanuela Borgia, And she spoke specifically about ancient theaters. And this is really outstanding because they're Greek and Roman theaters. And when you see the dots that you have on the map, it is really such a fantastic and marvelous network. People have been learning and have been educated through theaters, and they have felt the combination of the various communities and the managing of these monuments today, which is very difficult. And whether you use shelters or not is a very big issue concerning all monuments, especially such an advanced shelter for a theater that we saw is very interesting and provocative. So we have learned very much today in this one session of the many. I think that these sessions have high merit, and we must congratulate Professor Moropoulou for her endless devotion and her really innovative way of thinking and making high standard professionals meet and give them their best. So this is what I would like to finish with.
Thank you very much, Dr. Korka. A very good sum up. I would really appreciate if we could have half an hour for questions, but due to, because we are running late, I have to call at the podium the next panel that is already half an hour late. Please.